Welcome back, everyone, to Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Americas. It's the final day of our Swiss tournament. It is August 30th, 2020. And on this day in history, we had the historic space flight by Ian S. Bluford Jr., who was the first African American to travel to space, serving as a mission specialist aboard the Shuttle Orbiter Challenger. And it'll be a really big moment today as well, TJ, when we see some players also get on board their metaphorical Challenger spaceship and launch into orbit. Will it be killinallday, who catapults himself into the stratosphere of Hearthstone Americas or Hearthstone Grandmasters of the Americas, or will he be denied and once more be stuck in basic training? We'll see.
Fitting for Killin as well, because he's been trying to make that space voyage for many years, and has only successfully broken orbit once, which was when he qualified for a championship, qualified for world championship. Other than that, he's just consistently barely not getting into space. And we can use this analogy for the rest of the day if you want to. But he'll be playing the Tempo Mage, and only one of two players to bring Tempo Mage in the entire field of 16. The other one being Empanizado. But Killin was the only one to make it into the top 8 with the deck. And now he's trying to fight into Division A with a win in the semifinals here over justsaiyan, who's already booked his spot in Division A, but is looking for that big dub and get some little confidence boost, some extra cash in his pocket. He'll be piloting the Malagos Druid, which was a deck that was pretty night and day yesterday, depending on which game you looked at. Some games it just felt like he couldn't get a hold of all. And then some games against the Priest just felt like he couldn't do anything wrong. So it seemed like a very feast or famine deck. And I think the construction of his deck as well kind of plays into that, where he plays very few beasts, only 4 beasts, no leg threshers for guardian animals. So he's more susceptible to drawing out his beast in the early game, just like that. Ooh. Already only 2 beasts left in the deck, so 1 guardian animals is already dead. And if he draws one of his teacher's pet before he plays this second guardian animals, or this first one in his hand, it'll be very lackluster.
It definitely will be. That's not the opening hand that you're really looking for, if you're saying. And we'll see if he's able to come back from that early awkward draw. And I think, just a little bit of ramp would really tie everything together anyway. Because he ramps, as he picks up Breath of Dreams, he can just go into Twilight Runner anyways. Draw a bunch of cards, then finish off whatever he wants to do before playing that Guardian Animals and pull the rest of the cards from his deck. And then for killinallday, looking as an opportunity to develop onto the board while Druid takes their time in the early game. So Killin has a couple of choices here. Kirin Tor Tricaster, pretty strong, meaning you can get it going, but it does have a couple of significant drawbacks, making your spells cost more by giving you a ton of spell damage. So looks like Killin's just going to go for the curve here.
Yeah, just going for tempo, I suppose. Just playing a 3/3. But the problem with it is, now with Sorcerer's Apprentice Mana Cyclone in hand, this thing kind of has to die before he really wants to do anything. Ooh, Breath of Dreams picked up from Saiyan. Wow. I mean, he would have preferred that last turn, but from my perspective, that's right on time. Still a turn away from Guardian Animals, but at least he can get a Twilight Runner down next turn and then go for a coin into Guardian Animals the following turn.
Yeah. The Twilight Runner allowing Saiyan to draw 4 cards is a really big deal, but that's where things like Devolving Missiles will come into play and really shut that down, which is why it's also crucial that Saiyan was able to play Guardian Animals if he's not reliant on Twilight Runner for his card draw. So for Killin, he can actually set up the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then if he plays another one the following turn, let's say Saiyan takes his turn to set up instead of killing the Sorcerer's Apprentice, he will get a really big pop-off turn, and the Kirin Tor Tricaster won't actually even have that negative effect. Looks like Saiyan is going to fully remove and take this threat seriously, which is a good move. You don't want to get too careless here.
Yeah. Especially, just considering the Devolving Missiles. But Cram Session picked up for Killinallday. Decent pickup, but right now you saw a keep from Saiyan. 1 keep in the mulligan. He played ramp off the top and hasn't played anything otherwise. He's been playing completely off the top of his deck. Really, the only cards you're looking at keeping in this matchup are a dragon if you have Breath of Dreams, ramp, and guardian animals. So I think he can reasonably assume that guardian animals on the coin is the play this turn. So that's he's probably less incentivized to really play anything here. Might just be a hit and then ping. And pass and try and set up for Sorcerer's Apprentice Mana Cyclone to react to the Guardian Animal's turn next turn.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me, and he'd rather just play a little bit reactive and doesn't have like too many powerful proactive plays right now. Saiyan picks up Breath of Dreams number 2, but it does make his mana curve a little bit unusual, a little bit awkward unless he wants to use a coin here.
And I really don't want to draw a Teacher's Pet. I want to get this Guardian Animals out of my hand ASAP.
Yeah, it's 2 out of 20, so 10%. If they end up doing that, seems like a very low risk. But the longer you go without doing that, or rather, yeah, the longer you go into the deck, the percentages do end up increasing pretty significantly because you start taking like the series of actions. You're thinking like if Saiyan's overall line is to draw 3 to 4 cards, then that starts to get to territory where you're like, I'm not sure if I want to take that risk.
Yeah.
And it looks like Saiyan's going to go ahead and go for it anyways. I like this Breath of Dreams play just because, you know, kind of going back to what we're saying about cards that have lower value, like Breath of Dreams has lower value the longer you wait. Oh no, TJ, how'd you know?
I mean, it was higher than that because it was he drew 2 cards. Because he drew the card from Breath of Dreams and then the natural draw from next turn since he wasn't playing Guardian Animals. So it was 20%. So 1 in 5, I mean, that's not that low. Like that's a pretty big punish. Also, because he has another like Guardian Animals in his deck. So even though that's not as bad of a draw, it's still a pretty bad draw because that's a dead 7-minute card. So now this will only pull a single Teacher's Pet. And that gives Killen a huge amount of information. You can see his eyebrows go up. He's like, oh, all right. We got ourselves a game. And even though Just Saiyan's been able to ramp, killinallday has been doing the Tempo Mage version of ramping, which is drawing a ton of cards.
Yep.
So now he can, this is a great turn to use his Sorcerer's Apprentice. The one thing about using this Sorcerer's Apprentice is it is his last one. So he wants to make sure that he can really pop off with this and try and fill up his hand with as much stuff as possible.
I just kind of like saw Speaker Gidra. I'm like, well, that's one way you can capitalize off of the second Guardian Animals that doesn't do anything. Seeing if
those are awkward.
He can even stick these minions. The Regent Tutor also quite problematic in a deck that wants to have a bunch of these smaller minions that combo together.
Yeah.
But he has Raz Frost Whisper. That is some AoE that he can generate. But it looks like he's going to start with his Mana Cyclone. Finds another Devolving Missiles. I guess you can just use the Combustion with the spell damage instead because it will be dealing more than just 4 original damage. And from here, everything looks pretty solid for killinallday, as he does have the Pyroblast ready to go off of that Wand Thief.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh, and Saiyan does not have many great plays. And killinallday did play Elemental Allies. He got that from his Mana Cyclone. Mana Reservoir is an Elemental. So he didn't play the Elemental Allies before he played the Mana Cyclone, so he still doesn't have any quest progress, but say he picks up like second Mana Cyclone or Mana Giant. He's looking good for Elemental Allies to be. Ooh, he's 1 off from the Raz hitting it, so he's got a Devolving Missiles.
Oh, jeez. I mean, this is so devastating for Stan. He's already hurting on card draw and doesn't have. I mean, he ramped a lot, but he didn't find anything to actually play. Like, being able to jump up 2 mana crystals compared to where he should be is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And yet, despite that, it just seems like he's losing more and more ground.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Killen also has like a 3-turn setup here. He has the Power Blast waiting on 10, so as long as he can get to that stage of threatening, he might be able to do that. He also might just kill the next turn.
Yeah, I mean, this is 3 damage to face.
Okay.
All right. Overflow picked up, but he's likely to not have a big board impact here. Because one thing to keep in mind about this Malagos Druid is because it has no way to capitalize off Fog Beams and Iron Barks, it doesn't run them. So the ability to play Overgrowth and then immediately develop a huge, or play Overflow and then immediately develop a huge board or clean up a large portion of your opponent's board is incredibly limited. And so this is kind of just all right, well, I'm giving up development in order to try and draw cards. You have 1 turn now to capitalize hard on this, and
I mean, the Jandis is what I was looking at this turn.
Yeah.
And I still want to explore this Jandis opportunity.
Yeah, if he gets a rush, he can push a significant amount of damage. I mean, that's not rush, but those are both very well statted. Whew! A 7/5 and a 5/6. That's about as good as you can get from 5 drops. I mean, there's obviously Earth Elemental and Mortuary Machine, but Earth Elemental being the absolute best, Mortuary Machine having a significant downside of giving your opponents Reborn. But as far as no downside, just nicely statted minions, hard to beat with those. All right, can double trade Ping with the Mana Cyclone and Lab Partner, and then set up the Astromancer Solarian to still have 3 spell damage. There's no way he can set up for a guaranteed Power Blast until next turn, it doesn't seem.
Yeah, this looks like it's just set up as best as you can. The 50-50 here doesn't really matter too much to Saiyan in the grand scheme of things, because he's just going to die if he's not able to deal with the entire board.
Yeah.
And it seems like he was holding on to the idea that maybe Malagos can give him some extra burst opportunity if he was able to get just a little bit more front-loaded mana ramp, which he doesn't have. So, well, he has Innervate, but that's not enough. Instead, it's just going to be a swipe.
Swipe in a Teacher's Pet, maybe a Crystal Power to heal.
Right. I guess he's already seen one of the Devolving Missiles. Actually saw 2. One that was randomly generated as well.
Yeah. Innervate.
Not pretty.
Hero Power. Okay. So, because he didn't use Crystal Power to heal, the spell damage on board with the Pyro Blast, it will deal exactly 11. Oh my gosh. You can't fault Saiyan for that one, though, because that's about as efficiently as he could have cleaned up that board. So
Totally.
Nicely done to him. You know, he had Alexstrasza to stabilize if significant damage was pushed. And even Alexstrasza, Crystal Power, to push himself up to 20 health the following turn. With Killen out of resources, Saiyan, despite a terrible start, was actually close to turning that around. But unfortunately just wasn't able to get there, and the Pyroblast coming out secures Killen game 1 victory.
Yep, so Killen all day, 1 game away from going to the top 2, which is, what he needs in order to make that Division A dream happen. So it's not really a good start for Saiyan, but this is where the secondary and tertiary decks could potentially step in here. Killen most likely going to stay on his primary deck here. Doesn't seem like he needs to change too much. But, for Saiyan, I wonder if he wants to switch at all to secondary or tertiary decks. Secondary deck has, a little bit more proactive plays. Threshers make his way in. Bees and Animated Broomstick. His tertiary deck is most likely for weapon-based decks, so I don't anticipate that coming out here.
Yeah, what's interesting is that Killen actually built his secondary deck specifically for Druids. Well, not specifically for Druids, Priests, and against Turtle Mage. But because Saiyan doesn't play Lake Threshers in his primary deck, the mirror image in his primary deck goes up a lot in value. because it will protect like Sorcerer's Apprentice, Shinvala, that type of thing from the guardian animals. So Killing All Day, I think, was wrestling with the decision of which of his decks to queue, the just more consistent like additional one-drop stuff of his primary deck, or his secondary deck, which has a little bit of greed with Boom Pistol Bully and with Archmage Antonidas. So he kind of knows that Saiyan is going to stick on primary, but if we look back to the last when Killing All Day played against ETC, his Malagos Druid, he was queuing a secondary deck in games 2 and 3. He was queuing the Boom Pistol Bully Archmage Antonidas, and obviously he won. He had success with it. Right. So I think the only reason why he would stay on primary this is because Just Saiyan lacks the Leg Threshers, so Mirror Image in his primary deck is a lot better.
Well, we did get confirmation just now that Saiyan will be staying on his primary deck. So we're going to go again for game number 2. And that does set up some mind games, right? Like how you want to tech in between these different games. Maybe Saiyan just wants to still stay on the course for primaries, recognizing he got pretty unfortunate with the way the draws panned out. And then maybe at the last game, if it goes really south, some players can switch at the last second saying, yeah, this was a deck that was designed to beat or counter certain classes. And then use that opportunity to really surprise their opponent in the definitive game. But it is single elimination, right? Yesterday and the day before, we've had double elimination. The days before that, there were Swiss. So losses were possible to come back from. This time around, not really the case. You really got to make sure that the single elimination, you got to put your best foot forward. So it looks like Saiyan is going to put his last tournament life on the line in the primary Druid deck. And we've seen that Guardian Animals dynamic with only 4 or 5 drops really bite him several times throughout this weekend, TJ. And it seems like he says, you know what? Probability says that's not going to happen again. And Killen once again is going to turn his Tempo Mage, which just shows all kinds of explosive potential through the Chinvala tempo they can generate early, through Mana Cyclone value, through Mana Giant, Conjurer's Calling, or maybe just straight up curving with Jandis Barov. It's a lot of stuff that comes your way, and the most important thing is that it's low curve, so it seems like Mage always has some kind of game plan no matter what.
Yeah, and it is the primary deck again for Killen as well. So, changing up from his strategy of previous Malagos Druids, like when he played against ETC, and going with the primary just because of the lack of Leg Threshers from Saiyan. Wow, an abysmal start once again for Saiyan. Obviously, that can be made a lot better with at least a little. Oh, jeez.
I mean, that's not a good opening hand at all for Just Saiyan. Oh boy, is he gonna commit to the hero power line of just shooting down this lab partner 1 damage at a time? We shall see. Meanwhile, Killen having a very similar opening hand, but chooses instead to go for this Chinvala, recognizing that Magic Trick has a strong chance of summoning a 5/5 next turn. And I like that, foregoing the Primordial Studies Magic Trick that he did in the previous game, and recognizing this game situation is different. And that's kind of what makes the Tempo Mage a very exciting deck to play, because it has all kinds of different openings that you can really consider, and it deviates in very different timelines of how the games would end up playing out.
Yeah, it does.
Here we go.
Doesn't find the one drop.
Spell.
Yeah. Saiyan actually could have killed the Shinvala. With Crystal Power, Moonfire. But it's actually pretty unlikely that the Mage has 3 1-mana spells. At least that are playable. And if they do, it's usually Ray of Frost, which he'd be Ray of Frosting his own minions. And I think you're willing to take that risk just to hold on to, like, not having to Crystal Power Moonfire, because he'd be super stranded if that were the case.
Saiyann's so happy.
Ooh.
No Chinvala activation, although Killen still has a lot of ammo. The Steward of Scrolls, for example, could find a really powerful spell like Pyroblast to end the game, similarly to last game. And Killen has more resource generation through Arcane Intellect in his hand. Doesn't pick up the Apexis Blast. I guess since he has one AI already, doesn't need a second form of card draw. This is where the setups from Saiyan all comes together. Speak of Ghidra, only getting a 1-mana buff, but because he hero powered 2 turns in a row, the setup was very beautiful for Speak of Ghidra and Crystal Power to clean things up. This was well done. And, early game when you don't get the ramp can be very tricky for Druid. It looks like Saiyan, getting, of course, a little bit lucky with how the cards lined up, but also that's what he was anticipating, the setup for it.
Yeah, took the risk and definitely paid off. So I like the way he played that.
You could justify the Ray of Frost and Mirror Itch here. It's pretty close, actually, I think. But
yeah,
given that he doesn't have any true way to capitalize on the Ray of Frost right now, like a Sorcerer's Apprentice, a Mana Cyclone, and his Chimbala just died, seems like that would be the best course of action. This Lightning Bloom allows Saiyan to activate this Overflow and actually get the heal on Ghidra, which is kind of nice, so that he can't get pinged off. And Saiyan picks up a lot of cards that he's glad that he drew, actually. Because if he had drawn these cards naturally, it would have been a long time before he would have been able to do anything else.
Yeah. Still no ramp.
He's got front-loaded ramp. The Lightning Bloom, that's one of the best ramp cards in the game, TJ.
What to do?
Yeah, but it's temporary.
Sometimes that burst of mana is what you really need for Druid to even run away with the game, right? The Lightning Bloom.
Yeah.
The Lightning Bloom, Twilight Runner on turn 1 is just super nasty to deal with. Sometimes that alone can blow out games.
Yeah.
So Killen.
Ooh,
generating as much stuff in the way as possible.
And
where is your Restitutor now?
So now the jig is up here because I had to double check, but when players play Specialist, they don't know which deck their opponent is queuing out of their primary, secondary, and tertiary. Saiyan may have thought that Killen was going to queue the secondary deck because that's what he did against the previous Malagos Druid opponent he had.
Right.
But now he sees a natural mirror image. One of these mirror images was from the Wand Thief or Steward Scrolls. I don't remember, one of the randomly generated ones. But the other one, I believe, was a natural one. So now he knows. And Saiyan hasn't given up any information yet that shows that he's playing his primary deck, because killinallday could have maybe thought that Saiyan would have switched to his secondary.
Right. Wow. Really taking that Steward Scroll seriously instead of putting out this Twilight Runner, and will take out start taking out the mirror image, the unnatural ones, the artificially genetically modified ones, TJ. They're not organic and locally raised mirror images.
Ooh. So Counterspell Mana Giant can come out here to set up for Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah, I like that.
And protect it.
To protect the giant.
Yep, preemptive mirror images as well to protect the giant. So there's very little ways that Saiyan can deal with this Mana Giant. He would have to have double Innervate, double Swipe in hand. Because he'd have to have one, or a combination of that Moonfire. He'd have to have one spell to test for Counterspell, then an Innervate, and then the double Swipe. Which is not likely to have. And we can tell in the hand right now that he does not have a way to fully reach it. Breath of Dreams, I don't think can pick up anything either. So that'll be the counterspell.
I kind of wonder if Saiyan just wants to maximize his tempo as well, like play Forest Warden Omu and then just refill his mana crystals and really go in with whatever he can develop his turn as well, because I think he kind of knows that this is a situation that can get out of control. And if he's not able to stabilize onto the board next turn, it might be too late by the time he's able to get like Ysera and Alex Strauss and all these like really powerful battle cries out onto the field. But it does seem like he's just going to prioritize the Ysera for now and say, and just kind of like, you know, say if you have this way to capitalize off the Giant with Conjurer's Calling and Freeze, you got me. But not really either, because Saiyan still has outs, right? He could totally just draw cards and have an opportunity to do that. That's the second Giant that comes into the hand.
Oh, man, the problem with Saiyan's, I guess he does have Innervate in hand, but he's overloaded down to 6 mana crystals because he didn't find ramp. Ooh, a Gruul.
Wow, that is big.
Yeah.
I mean, those are 3 8/8s.
Yep.
Saiyan has only 6 mana crystals, but he's got the Omu.
Okay, if he gets a couple of Dream Portals here of spell damage. Nope.
Yeah, that's not what we're looking for the Dream Portal.
Can still, he can Omu Innervate? No, because he's still not. He will only have like 1 card draw left with Breath of Dreams. So this needs to hit spell damage.
Yikes.
Nope, he's dead.
TJ, Saiyan looks dead.
He's very dead. Oh, wow, he is dead.
2-0, killing all day. The prophecy is unfolding before your very eyes.
Also, you know, the miracle run for killing all day from the very bottom of the standings going into week 3. The only person lower than him, I believe, was ETC. So he was 15th in standings, in point standings, and now barely squeaks in to Division A with that win over Saiyan. And unfortunately for Frozen, knocking Frozen down to Division B because Killen now has the tiebreaker over Frozen, even though they're tied in points if Killen were to lose the finals.
That's right.
Because he has the higher overall finish now with at the second at minimum. So, well done. Barely squeaks in.
That's right. Kind of unfortunate again that Frozen second season in a row seemed like he was doing so well in 2019 and then just narrowly kind of missing out on top 8 for Division A and will have to fight for his life in Division B. Last season, it felt like almost all of America's stars were in Division B at one point, or at least threatened by it. As we had like Frozen and Muzzy and all these like really great players in Division B, and it was Firebat and Zalay that ended up dominating that division. But you know, this season it does seem like things are starting to kind of show a pack that's slightly ahead and a pack that's slightly lagging behind. And unfortunately, some players will have to finish 9th, 10th, 11th, narrowly missing out. But congratulations to Killing All Day. You know, started from the bottom and now we're here in top 2, and being able to get a guaranteed Division A spot for 2 newcomers with No Hands Gamer and Killen has got to be feeling really good, especially given how much hype. TJ, show him the t-shirt one more time.
Hashtag
That's right. The year of Killing All Day.
What's funny is that
the
letters on the t-shirt are bright green. We use green screens for our Grandmasters broadcast, so it's actually keyed out for the green screen, and it's just the color of our background, so it's see-through right now. It's the same color as our America's background because the letters are bright green. You know, for the one person watching the show right now that recognizes the YoCad shirt from 2 years ago when the last time Killing All Day appeared at a championship and we got the shirts. Actually, 3 years ago.
Well, it's funny because I was like, wow, TJ, you got even another shirt. Like, we kind of talked how there's only like 5 or 6 shirts in existence that have that specific design. I was like, did you make another one for today? But then I realized, yes, those are in fact green screened in because it identifies the chroma key. But maybe we're just revealing too much prediction tricks. We're in fact, TJ, wearing all green ourselves. They just decided to design this exact way. My hair is actually green. It's not blue. TJ's mustache is actually all green. It's not. Yeah. It's not brown.
We Dan and I are just completely fake. Nothing is real. We just paint everything green and we let production fill in the rest, whatever colors they'd like.
That's right. That's right. All right. So looks like we're gonna go into the game number 1 of this next series immediately. Here, Eddie has the Turtle Mage, which